Hello, welcome to card number 2 of part of our virtual class this month. As you guys know and probably are stuck at home yourselves, all my local classes were canceled, so I decided to make the cards online and share them with you this way. This is the original card. I had to modify this a little bit for those of you who got the materials and are working with this at home because I wasn't able to send the watercolors home with you, and these were watercolor painted and then we die cut them. So in your kit you're going to get some blue waves, and I'm going to show you one way to modify these, but I don't think they will look bad if you use them just the way they are on your card, so you can kind of get an idea. And like I said, I'll walk you through what I'm going to do here, and if you have some supplies, then maybe you can modify and color your waves at home. But let's set these aside for now, and the first thing we're going to do is color our hippos and our seagull. Now the hippos, I'm going to color in tonal grays. You can use cool grays, you can use warm grays. There's absolutely no wrong gray for a hippo. I just thought these would be the best choice. So I'm going to set my R30 aside. I only use that for the inside of the ears. And I'm going to start with my T5. And I'm going to do my best to keep my hands out of the way here so you can see what I'm doing. If you have no interest in coloring with copics, if you use pencils, please feel free to skip ahead of this video to the assembly part. If you are interested, I'll do a little bit of explaining, but this isn't a full copic tutorial. I color dark to light, especially when I want to shorten my coloring time. It's faster. And I also do that when I'm pretty confident in where the shadows are going. And I've colored these hippos a few times at this point, so in order to save time and to I just did them dark to light, and these colors blend together very easily. So I put the dark on first, and I'm blending that out with my other colors. And you do want to use a flicking motion so that you can blend fairly easily. And I'll try to keep my hands back, but I'm just applying the dark color to the edges, and I'm flicking towards the center of the hippo. And I find it easier to flick away from me, so notice I'm going to turn my paper to do that. And now I'm going to work my way down. This is T3. And as I go, my flicks are going to get longer, but I'm always starting at the edge of my stamped image and working towards the center of that image. Now I'm going to come back up to the face a little bit. I want to add a little more dark. I feel like this got washed out a little bit. So I'm adding a little bit of T3, and I'm going to come back in with a little bit of T2 and just soften those lines so they're not so harsh. And just like that, we have a hippopotamus. Now for the muzzle, if you look at pictures of hippos, first off, these are not super realistic. Hippos are kind of a pinky gray anyway, and I'm not going to add that pink in there, but the muzzles are a little lighter. So in that spirit, I'm going to start off with my T2, and around the edges of the muzzle I'm putting in the T2, and then with the T1 I'm flicking that in. So it's still gray, but I want it to be a lighter gray than the rest of the hippopotamus. So now I'm going to speed this up for this guy because it's the exact same process, but I'm just going to go in and flick in my dark. Alright, so I have both of my hippos colored. I followed the same technique, so like I said, I sped the second hippo up. And now I'm just going to come back in with my R30, and right at the bottom of his ears, I'm just going to flick in a little bit of pink, just to add a little bit of color and some character to our hippos. Now for the seagull, I am going to use my cool grays, and mostly because I don't want my hippos and my seagulls to be the same shade of gray. So that's why I'm recommending for that. I am still going to color this dark to light. I'm starting off with C9, which is very dark. So you're only going to use a very little bit of this. And at the bottom of the wing where it touches to the bird, I'm just going to flick in a little bit of C9. Then I'm going to come back with C5 and push that color out. And then I'm going to come in with C3. Oh, here it is. I couldn't find it. And color the rest of the wing. And if you look at pictures of seagulls, this is not the most realistic, but I wanted to have some contrast and interest to this bird. So this is kind of my take on a seagull, not realistic. So don't call National Geographic on me. And for the body, I'm going to use C2, C1, and C0. And I'm going to just start flicking in a little bit of gray. And mostly this is just to add some interest to the bird. I'm not, you know, I just didn't want him to be white. Just thought that that would be boring. But again, if you know, technically seagulls are white. So whatever you want to do here, I think is fine. I don't think Animal Planet would approve, but hey. And now these colors are all really light. I'm just filling in the center here just to, like I said, to give it a little touch of color so it's not the same color as the background of the card. So there we go. And then the last thing I'm going to do is give the beak a little bit of color. I'm going to start with my YR12, and just where it touches the bottom, I'm going to add a little bit of that. And I'm going to flick on some Y15. And then a little bit of Y13. So we get a beakish color. So we got a little bit of orange, a little bit of yellow. And there we go. That was it. That's all the coloring we're going to do. Now I'm going to take my scissors and I'm going to go ahead and fussy cut these out. Notice at the bottom, I'm just going to cut this. On the card, we're going to tuck those hippos down in there so you're never going to see the bottom. So don't worry when you're cutting how the edges of those will look. Through the magic of television, we now have those all cut out. Now I'm going to use my glaze pen. Any black gel pen will work. The one thing that's nice about this brand though is it dries shiny, and I think it just adds a little something something to the eyes. So I'm just going to go over the eyes. Now these take about 60 seconds to dry, so if you do have this, remember not to run your fingers through it. So I'm just going over the eyes, but a black gel pen will work too. I like the way it darkens the eyes up to make it feel like it has draws your eye to that, so I don't know, it gives more life to your characters, I think. So you can see on my final one or my original one, I already did that. Just kind of, I don't know, it's optional, but it's something that I usually do when I'm coloring critters. As a side note, if you're coloring people, it makes them look creepy, so I don't recommend doing this to like little images of girls and whatnot. That looks weird. Okay, so I have the two wave strips, and I pulled out a blue ink. Any blue ink will work. It doesn't have to be Distress. It could be Stampin' Up, Close to My Heart. I'm just taking a brush, and I'm going to brush some of this on. And again, this step is totally optional. If you have it, great. If not, great. It's just, I don't know. If you ever follow my cards, I don't care to have flat surfaces. I'm always trying to add texture or add some sort of contrast so that things don't look as flat. And I think that just adds a nice little wow to your cards. Other things you could do this with if you had it at home was chalk. Get out your old chalk, your Stampin' Up chalks from years and years ago. That would be a neat little thing. But just see how now when you layer it, you go from like a dark blue to a light blue to a dark blue to a light blue, and it just kind of adds a little bit of interest, and it's something really simple. So if you have blue ink at home, I highly suggest this step. If you don't have blue ink at home, not a big deal. I don't think it'll look bad. Like I said, you can use chalk. If you have watercolor, add just watercolor, a little bit of a darker blue on there. If you use watercolor, you can also like tap the brush and add those little speckles to it. That would look kind of neat. I'm trying to brainstorm some other ideas, but at any rate, it adds just a little something to the card. Okay, great. Now we're ready to assemble the card. So we have the back of this, and I've already stamped the sentiment on. And this yellow piece is going to get centered onto the white. But I don't want to glue that on quite yet. The first thing I want to do is take one of your blue strips, and we are going to add some glue onto the bottom of this strip here of where the yellow is. Now keep in mind the yellow is not glued down. I'm just using this as a placeholder. So now I'm setting this down. I'm going to add the blue on top. So essentially all you've done is glue the blue onto the yellow. Now what we can do is flip this over and use our scissors or paper trimmer, whatever you want, to trim off wherever the blue hangs over the yellow. Okay. And from this point, we can start placing some of our critters. I also have some fun foam. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to just trim a couple little pieces off of this. I have two here. I might not need them all, but now I have a little pile I can just grab from. And on the back of the other wave, I can put and glue, attach a few of these on. So this way, this gives me some depth to our design here. So I'm just going to add a few of my little foam squares on the back. And I'm going to do kind of the same thing I did the first time. I'm going to lay my yellow square where I think I'll eventually glue this down. And I'm going to put glue on the back of my foam. And then I can flip this over and repeat and trim this off. Okay, so now I have that trimmed to fit the yellow as well. And I have the little foam squares in here. If you can hear that in the background, my son and my husband are upstairs playing. I had to ask my husband to take him upstairs to make this video because every time I had him down here with me, he was trying to talk to you guys and it was very distracting. So thank you for bearing with me where we're all stuck at home at this time. So this is the best we can do. So now I'm adding glue onto the yellow piece, and now I can glue that onto our card. And then we can take our little characters who should be dry now, and we can start putting them in. I'm going to put this guy in first. So I'm going to put some glue on the back of this hippo. And I'm purposely kind of placing him right up here by the sentiment. So, you know, hippo, hippo. And on this guy, I'm going to add a few pieces of foam to the back of him, just because I want him to pop up a bit. Actually, I'm only going to add it to his head. Just realize that there's going to be foam on this piece here, so that would, that right? Let's look. Let's put him in here. So we're going to have him here. We can glue our seagull down. I think he does need a little piece here at the bottom. So I'm just going to cut a tiny piece of foam. So now I'm placing that here. And there we go. We have our finished little card. So although it looks a little different than the original, I think it still looks fine. It's still cute. I hope you still love it. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you have any questions. Please hit subscribe so you don't miss any of our other class videos from this month. And I look forward to crafting with you again soon. Thanks so much.